case this information is useful for somebody. So we've been here for the weekend, and there's so much information and so much going on. I just want to put some in context. So one of these things, I've wanted to say this on a presentation for such a long time. It's like this world that we live, this capitalist world, we have this like narrative that we start from A and we go to B, and that's our goal, right? But this is not life. This is absolutely not the way things happen. What actually happens is we go all over the place. This is the way that we're looking at this. We have a very clear vision, and we know that we're going to get here. And we have some priorities, and this is clear. But the exact way that we get there is open to flow like a river. Maybe it should look more like a river. And just see where energies are and where flows are, and where we go sideways a little bit to make sure that we might even not get to B. We might get to this place over here because we realize that there is a better place to go. The vision needs to be changed sometimes and adapted. So while we were here on this weekend, I've been talking, people have suggested having bees on the site, and people have suggested doing an earth fridge. And this is an example, these are seeds, and when the conditions are right, these things might happen here. We might have seeds, we might have bees, if the conditions are right, that somebody we have the resources. And that's how we will go where we're going, and always with this permaculture design, this permaculture idea of the vision. So today, we've been talking about cover crop management, and we've been working with these basic tools, and I've done some calculations. So we were 7 people, and in 1 hour, we did 6% of the vineyard. And this is what we're doing in 2026, and these are the resources that we have. And then we were like, okay, so when we do with the cover crop next year, the year after, how are we going to manage it? Are we going to use machines? Are we going to use lots of people? Are we going to use the same tools that we did today? And one thing that I can tell you, looking at these calculations, with 29 people in 4 hours, we can do 100% of the vineyard based on the calculations from today. In 2027, we already have the funding. Well, actually, we're about a week. Well, we should already have the funding to do an activity in May with 29 people, either at Mas Las Viñas not Mas Las Viñas, sorry, that's wrong, Mas La Yum, if we work with them, or maybe we could do one here in Caceres. But that can happen, so that's why it's got a tick. This is absolutely something that we can do with the resources that we already have in May next year. And we can absolutely use the tools that we use today with a bit of improvement, and we can absolutely make 29 of those tools within our budget. So that's something that we can definitely do. And I think that there's a value in that, because these people are learning about agriculture, regenerative agriculture. They're doing something, they're learning what the machines are doing. And I think there's a value in that. They're learning about why we would drop the cover crop, why we would roller, why we will crimp, what that effect that has on the ecosystem. So not only is it real, but I do think it has a value, rather than just a farmer going around a field and not anybody learning, right? Then moving forward to 2028, maybe we're using quads with roller crimpers and doing it with mechanics. Maybe we're using sheep, but this is not something that I know yet. I don't have the resources for that yet. It's just out there in front of us. This links into everything else that we need to do in spring. So if we have these 29 people, how are we going to get the pruning done? How are we going to get the fertilizers? Actually, the fertilizers could go maybe into this as well. How are we going to do the brotes? Are we going to do the second passing of the vineyards? And we also have all these trees, 1,000 trees down in the valley that we need to care for. So there's all these other things. It's not everything is cover crop, right? So that's where I've taken what we've done today. And I feel pretty confident that next May there'll be 29 people doing what we did today in the fields. I think that feels like good. And then another thing that we said down in the vineyard, we said about animals, and this is kind of how it goes. I was like, oh, we'll have animals before we have a shop. Did I say that? Yeah, I think I said animals before we'll have a shop. And then we talk about how we have animals in the vineyard. So these are the possible paths to having animals in the vineyard, because we need somebody to look after the animals. And this is the way that I'm taking away from this weekend. So one possible path is that with the neighbours in this valley, we kind of work together, we create an association, and we collectively bring animals to this valley. In which case, in terms of human resources, it could be done with me and Nick, because we'll just take our share of the responsibility. Now, me and Nick are available for those days. The association doesn't exist yet, but it's something we're talking about. It's something that has been talked about. It's not just invented. Another possible path to having animals in the vineyard is that we find somebody who already lives here, who becomes our farmer. So somebody who lives locally comes here to work regularly. And one step to do that is that we could already, and we can already do this, it's got a tick, we can already find €200 a month to get somebody to work for us for a few hours a month with me, learn about the project and see what we're doing, and then together work to a point where that person becomes a full-time employee who's really our farmer. So it doesn't have to be someone that lives right here, which is what I think I said before. Like, it doesn't have to be someone who lives here in this house. It can be someone who lives locally and comes to work for us. And then I don't know who that person is, and I haven't made an advert, but that would be the next step, but I haven't done it. I do know that we've got €200 and I can manage them for a few hours a month. And I don't know how we fund them later, but there are some subventions available for young farmers and from grants. And another possible path to getting animals in the vineyard is that somebody shows up, somebody who's passionate, skilled, and they want to live here at the finca, and then they get really into the project, and they're working on many different factors in the project, and one of the things that they're working on is being here to manage the animals. And that person doesn't exist at the moment, but it's out there, and we'll see if they come. And that is what I took away from today. So there you go. We'll keep it running in case there's any comments or questions, and we can always cut the end off if there aren't. But I don't know what that feels like when you listen to it.
Very good. No, perfect. In terms of following on from our discussion below, like shaping it and seeing the thinking behind it makes a lot of sense.
This is really how we're going. It's like we have three visions, three clear paths, three possible paths, and then we'll see which one of those. This is obviously the next step will be, let's see if we can find this local person, because I do see steps for that, and I will now talk about it with the rest of the team, because this is the first time it's ever been written on a board. The association, we're supposed to be having a meeting, but the conversation froze, so I'll reactivate the conversation, see whether we have a meeting about doing the association, and then we'll see. And you know, there could be something else. There's always the unknown factor that something else will happen.
I think it's great for people who attend the regenerative weekends to I think this is a great experience on this particular regenerative weekend, because everyone's been really involved, engaged, understanding that we're experimenting with rebar, but in a different version of the world, you know, someone could come and be like, well, we've been stomping around in a field with rebar, etc. But I think this is just great full circle to go, how does what we did and what our effort go into, how does it actually then get digested and actually really influences pathways that we take? And it's also, I think, great to see your methodology. And
that's kind of why it's on video, because people don't often see it, and I know that I want to make it more transparent.
Do we have to manage cover crop more than once a year?
Yeah, this is spring. Everything here is spring. Everything here is animals, and this is one part of the bigger system. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing as well, the weekends themselves, the reason that we do the weekends, and the only thing we have is the weekends, is this is when we have this time to go into the design. I've just been back through all the fields, counted the vines, following up, and that's the way that with our structure creates space for me to remember to spend hours and hours and hours going back into everything and thinking about the design, because we haven't, apart from the regenerative weekends, we haven't had a meeting to talk about the design together. So it's that structure helps us, and it's every 2 months, more or less, 4 times a year, which works. 5 times a year. Even better.
Thank you.
That's the end.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
And you are so passionate.